What's up, guys? On this week's show, hello, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and the greatest game ever made is back? All that and more on this episode of One Giant Leap for Geeks.
Cue the music.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for
Geeks. Welcome to another episode of OGLFG, where we talk about movies, video games, and all things in geek culture. I'm your host, Mike C. Squared, and with me is my co-host, Benwah.
When Melly Mel's away, only four are furious.
Before we get started, I want to let you know, if you enjoy the show, tell some friends about us. Share us on your social media, whatever you choose to do. Just know that you're helping us let others know about the best damn podcast they probably never heard of. Now, if you want to talk to us, the show is on Twitter at GiantLeap4Geeks. You can get a hold of our absent but resident DJ Melly Mel at Froggy Beaver, and Benwah is at Benwah Gaming. That's BENWAH Gaming.
If you're like me and around my age, you're a sucker for nostalgia, especially 80s and 90s. I'm talking music, movies, television, games, just pop culture as a whole. So, if you're from mid-Michigan or going to be traveling to the area, I suggest you check out Rewind and Birch Run. Rewind is a vintage-inspired blast from the past with not just cool trinkets and novelty items, but dope gear to rock as well. I'm talking shirts, jackets, caps, and even sneakers. Retro styles to make your inner child smile. Absolutely, positively, definitely check out Rewind. You might even see your boy Benwah copping something old school or shooting the breeze with the owner, Tyler. Rewind is right off of I-75, exit 136 in the Birch Run Premium Outlets, Section E, next to Crocs.
Benwah.
What is up with me? Let me guess.
Yes.
That's what you're
yes.
saying.
Exactly, yes. What you been doing?
Apparently I'm psychic.
Mm-hmm.
Today is such a beautiful day.
I know, right?
I wanted to just be like outside or in my living room or just somewhere not cooped up in my bedroom so I can have just the door open and let all that nice, warm, like 60 degree plus sunny air in the house.
I know, it's beautiful.
I woke up this morning, like I have shades in my room, right? So even when they're closed, a little bit of sunlight can just peek its way through, and that natural sunlight helps me wake up in the morning. But I woke up, I saw that, I felt good. I'm like, I'm going to do some yard work because I planned on doing this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then sure enough, like yesterday morning looked kind of dreary. The ground was still kind of wet, like it might rain. And so I'm like, you know what? If I can't go outside, I'm going to do my laundry. I'm going to clean up the house a little bit, do the dishes. And then by like 1, 2 o'clock, I'm like, motherfucker, I could have been doing the yard. But by then I'd already showered and shaved and did laundry. I'm like, I'm not going to get dirty again. So I didn't do it. So I did it today, and I love it. I love my electric mower. If you have the chance to ever get an electric mower and weed whacker, do it. They're great things. And also, since I've had a couple days off of work, I've been watching the first 2 days of the best of the Super Juniors tournament for New Japan. Already a match of the year candidate took place. Oh my god, Sho versus Shingo was fucking amazing. I know this means nothing to you because you're not a wrestling fan, but I mean, I am. Fuck WWE, New Japan, All Elite, Ring of Honor. That's my stuff right there. What about you though, Mike? How?
I'm an ex-wrestling fan. I mean, there was a time, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say like I quote grew out of it, but my era was pretty much from like Ultimate Warrior to like the tail end of like The Rock's WWE career, and then after that, it kind of fizzled out for me.
So like 90 to like 2001.
Yeah, pretty much.
2002.
So I mean, yeah, you know, I got a good decade and some change out of it, you know.
Also, last night I watched that movie with Marky Mark Wahlberg, the one where him and his wife adopts kids.
Oh, how was that?
It's a feel good movie. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it's great. It's not bad. It's okay for a feel-good film. But the eldest daughter that they adopt, I knew I recognized her Turns out the eldest daughter in that film is the same girl who's going to be playing Dora.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because I know she was in, like, the second to last Transformers movie, like, not counting Bumblebee, but, like, the 2 before that. I know she was in that, and then Dora, but yeah. Okay, so that makes sense then.
Yeah, because when I was watching that, I'm like, I know this girl, but, like, who is she? Mm-hmm. And then I remember, oh, she's playing Dora, and then I'm like, oh, when I saw her in the trailer, I had no idea who that girl was. So it's like, okay, now she's starting to have more prominent roles in film, so maybe this is good things for her, you know?
Yeah. It is going to suck, though, because it's like, you know, she'll have a good, you know, lead up, you know, with, like, being in Transformers and then being in that movie, and then I fear her career is going to take a plummet after this Dora movie comes out.
Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Not that I'm going to go see that movie. However, coming up soon, man, we're going to have John Wick 3.
I know.
And Brightburn.
I know. John Wick 3's this weekend. Brightburn's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be a good next couple weekends for movies.
It should be. Hopefully. But you get to go to fucking Comic-Con.
Yes. I was just going to say that. But what I've been, or I should say what I will be doing this time next week, this weekend. So by the time you hear our next episode, I will have come and gone from Motor City Comic Con. It is going from Friday the 19th until Sunday the 21st. And it'll be my first Comic Con. I'm really excited to go. I didn't go. I procrastinated and waited around on tickets, and so I wasn't able to get like some of the super VIP, like, you know, go fucking give Charlie Hunnam a back rub, you know, like VIP package. But there, John Cleese is going to be there. David Tennant is going to be there.
The Doctor.
Yeah. Charlie Hunnam's going to be there. Jim Lee is going to be there.
So many people are going to be there.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. Yeah, so I'm going to be there all 3 days. I'm really excited. I seriously debated whether or not I should cosplay, but I was like, nah, I'll be a normie my first go. I'm going to wear my Avengers hoodie, but other than that, that's about as cosplay as I'm going to get for the con. But no, I'm really excited for that. So that's coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. And I will let you guys know how it went next week. But this week, the one thing of note that I can think of that I did was I argued with Comcast Cablevision. If you don't have Comcast in your town, you're lucky, but you probably do. I had to argue with them on the phone for about an hour and a half, 2 hours about our cable. So just to give you some context to this, we got a letter in the mail telling us that our current cable box was out of date pretty much, and we needed to upgrade. So we opted to upgrade to a new box. It was sent in the mail. We hooked it up, returned the old box to the service center, and then they cut our fucking cable off. And it was like that for a good 2 weeks, give or take. And so we finally call them, and we're like, hey, you know, we haven't had cable, and, you know, we are paying for this shit. Like, what's going on? And basically, they tried to argue with me and tell me that we opted out of our cable. And I'm like, so wait, let me follow this train of thought here. We upgraded to a new box, a new cable box, and then paid our cable bill for the month, and then told you to cancel our cable? I'm like, what? I'm not following the sequence of events and how this makes sense. And basically, I pretty much threw a bitch fit on the phone with them, and I'm like, not only are y'all going to credit me back for the difference of money I spent for that month's worth of cable that we paid for that we did not have, but you're going to upgrade me to a better package than I have currently. Because as it stood, we had pretty much just like basic cable, because we don't really watch TV that much. Most of our stuff is like streaming services and just watching YouTube and shit like that. But we had a pretty crappy internet, plan. It was just 50 megabytes per second download speeds, and we had like maybe 20 channels, if that. of cable that we could watch. And so I threw a fit to the point where I got reimbursed for that difference. And I got us on a new 2-year contract that got us 125 plus channels and tripled our download speeds to 150. And I was like, and I'm still paying the same amount as I was for what I had before. And I was like, y'all was like butt fucking me so hard on our old plan. It is not even funny. I mean, we've had this plan for a couple years now, but we've never tried to upgrade it or anything. Cause I was like, well, it does what I needed to do. So whatever. And yeah, it took arguing with Comcast for damn near 2 hours to get them to upgrade us. Cause they just kept coming back with like, okay, well, I can knock $5 off your bill and it'll be the same. Or if you want to upgrade, you're going to have to pay like $150. And I was like, bullshit. I'm like, I want the 2-year plan with the 150 download speed, and I'm not taking shit else until I get that. So if you got to transfer me to whoever, put me on hold, whatever you got to do, don't come back here till you can do that shit. But I finally went out. So moral of the story, kids, if you want something, just keep yelling. and eventually you'll get it. No, at least in cases like that. I mean, with a lot of these service providers and shit, it's like they don't want to lose you as a customer, but they are the customer service people who you talk to initially, they are like the first line of defense. So they just kind of throw them out there to get shit on until finally when they transfer you to somebody who can help you, it's like a complete 180 because the first person's very cautious about giving you anything extra, and they keep trying to find ways to not give you what you want. And then once they transfer you to the next person, they're like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever you want. And it's like, I feel bad for those people because they just catch so much shit, but I don't make the system. That's just the way it is. So, oh well.
Supervisors just don't want to deal with that shit. So once it gets up to that level, they instantly take care of you.
Yeah.
And on top of that, these companies can afford to put customers through all this bullshit because they do have a monopoly.
Yep.
Technically, legally, they don't refer to that as a monopoly because, say, you don't get broadband or cable. You can end up getting like DSL or like dish satellite cable. So they say technically Charter, Spectrum, or in your case Comcast does not have a monopoly, but it does. If you want to have cable, broadband, internet connections, you have to go through them.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Exactly. Then they have like non-compete clauses between companies and shit, so it's a whole thing.
Oh yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit, but my family went through the same thing with DirecTV years and years ago. Every time they would try to increase their bill, they'd be like, all right, we're going to just cancel. And eventually they would cave, and they wound up having DirecTV for the initial same contract price for like 5 years.
Damn.
5 or 7 years. Yeah, they just kept saying, you know what, we're done with you. And DirecTV's like, no, you ain't done yet. We'll just keep you where you are. And they went that route with it. But yeah, man, fucking TV, internet, that's... These ISPs and these service providers just for cable and television, it's all bullshit.
Yeah. And honestly, it's all overpriced as shit. Like, they have the infrastructure and the technology, and we've come so far with computing power and everything else and all the servers they have that they could offer you this shit for much, much lower prices than what they do. They just don't.
Well, for the sake of the infrastructure... Maybe not, but with the internet becoming more prevalent and less people relying on actual cable television, it is only a matter of time before prices do have to go up, because otherwise, how are these networks going to be able to get the ad revenue out of everybody who wants to put up commercials if nobody's actually watching you? I mean, a lot of these main networks and cable stations now have their own websites where, hey, you can either pay us directly to watch our programming through our website, or if you already have a cable subscription, you can just like sign up for free and watch, say, Game of Thrones on HBO.com.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. But yeah, no, that's pretty much how my week has gone. So updates to come for Comic-Con, but until then, moving on.
The flowers are blooming, birds are chirping, and millions of ass cracks are showing while the humans try their hand at gardening. Life is beautiful.
I know that this does not make Benwah happy, but it warms my spirit. I know that you're not a fan of the constant, like, churning out of the Hollywood machine of remakes and reboots and shit like that. And I feel like just about everything we're going to talk about this week is some kind of remake or reboot or reimagining or something. So you're just going to hate this whole fucking episode.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be very grating. It's going to really grind my gears.
Right. But we got the first trailer for It Chapter 2. And the way it played, I wasn't sure. So to go back to like the first It, when they announced that they were coming out with the It movie, I was very reluctant to kind of go with it because I was like, man, I don't know how you're gonna. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's put this up front. The It TV movie is not good. There are some good things about it, but overall, it's pretty fucking cheesy. And I mean, the budget, the time they were making it in, it was on like ABC or some such shit. I don't know. It was network TV.
It was ABC.
Yeah, so
it was a miniseries for ABC.
Yeah,
back in like 1990 or something.
Exactly. So it wasn't like, you know, this shit was on like, you know, Cinemax After Dark or some shit. So it was very watered down from what it originally was in the book, but it was okay for what it was. But the best part about it, if you ask anybody, is Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. And my whole thing when the first It movie was coming out is I'm like, I don't know how you can do Pennywise again and me not constantly be thinking about Tim Curry. But I will say they have the actor, I think it's Stellan Skarsgård or something like that. He has his own take. He's very different from Tim Curry's Pennywise in a lot of different ways. It's kind of like that, trying to compare like Heath Ledger's Joker to Jack Nicholson's Joker. They're playing the same character, but you can't really compare them because they're coming at it in completely different ways. And I really enjoyed his take on Pennywise. Like I found it really disturbing. It was funny and creepy and eerie, and it was just really, it gave me like the original Nightmare on Elm Street vibes, where I was like, you fucking seem like you would molest kids and shit. Like, besides eating them, like, I feel like you would be like caught up in like a sex offender scandal. Like that's the kind of vibes he gave me. But so I thoroughly enjoyed the first It movie, and going into this, I was really curious about how they were going to approach it, because, you know, if you know the story of It, you know, the second half takes place 27 years later. All the kids from the original story are adults. I mean, it's just one book, but, you know, it kind of does a big time jump. And so there's all new actors now, and I was worried about how this would come across, because the kid actors in the first It were actually pretty good. Like, I usually don't like child actors, but between Stranger Things and the It movie, I was like, you know, some of these kid actors aren't too bad. Like, they're not annoying or feel like they're just reading a script and it's just like, oh God, please get them off the fucking screen. But they did a pretty decent job. I am curious though, because you haven't seen the It remake, right?
I have not seen the remake, no.
Okay. So just going off of this trailer, what did this do anything for you as far as like make you interested to see that movie, or are you still kind of like indifferent about it?
It just confused me. It really confused me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the older woman who looks like she's a grandma, a senior citizen, it's pretty much, she pretty much states that she is the daughter of Pennywise, which throws me off.
Yeah.
Because how old was Pennywise in the reboot of the franchise? And two, in the original film, or the miniseries, Pennywise was almost like in like a mantis type alien or some shit. He wasn't human.
Yeah. I'm curious about that, because I don't know if that's just something. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's just something she's saying, or if they're actually changing some elements of the story. Because yes, you're right. Because not only in the book and in the miniseries, but in the movie, you know, Pennywise is some kind of creature that just takes the form of a clown. Like, he's not an actual human being. So
No.
I'm not really sure what that was about. So I don't know if that's just something. And I'm almost certain that that old lady is Pennywise and she's just fucking with them, because the whole, I mean, we're going to spoil some elements of it. So, I mean, if you haven't read a 30 plus some odd year old book at this point, like, I don't know what to fucking tell you, but it itself, it feeds off of fear, and that's what makes it stronger. And so it goes out to purposely scare its victims before it actually kills them, because it's giving it strength. And that's like one of my favorite things about the It story, because when you watch other horror movies and shit, and you know, like, say for example a Friday the 13th movie, it's like Jason like hoists the bodies up on these fucking Rube Goldberg machines, so when you open a door, a fucking mouse trap goes off, and then a string snaps and a dead body falls out of a fucking roof or something. It's like, why did you take the time to do all that? Like, why are you like trying to scare them? And just in any horror movie, like, there's so many moments where the killer or the creature or whatever it may be can just kill the character, but they don't, and they just do these jump scares and shit for no reason. It's like, just, you had him, you could have killed him right there. In the It movie, or just story in general, it makes sense, because it's like, well, he wants to scare you before he kills you, because he's feeding off of that. So that was a cool little take on that. But so I'm thinking that he's just fucking with her to make her afraid, and that's just all a part of his game before he actually kills the kids or the adults now at this point. But I know what you mean. When they show the picture and you see the Pennywise dad and like the circus in the background and shit, it's like, okay, I'm confused as shit. Like, what is happening right now?
Now, whether or not he really had a daughter and any of this is true, there was a moment where, like, her robe or her blouse or nightgown kind of opened up a little bit, and you could see what looked like it was rotting flesh.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm like, well, this just confirms this is evil of some, you know, fashion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it kind of, in the background, like, inside the doorway, like, it wiggled a little bit, like it wasn't walking normally.
That shit was so funny. I know it was supposed to be scary, but she like did like the worm or some shit in the background. It was like,
I was just waiting for like the whole I've fallen and I can't get up type thing to happen.
Oh.
You know, like Granny broke a hip. And so the whole, but really this might have all just been like psychological warfare, of course, on the Jessica Chastain.
Yep.
But it threw me off because all the photos and everything made it seem legit.
Yeah.
And well, I understand Pennywise does have the ability to conjure up, for lack of better term, hallucinations. So this could have all just been one really massive ploy by Pennywise, or are they going to actually introduce a spawn of Pennywise? Like, will this be the kind of sequel where Pennywise was legit killed in part 1, and now this is somebody else trying to get revenge for it? Because even when Pennywise or the evil or whomever or whatever it was, like, confronted Jessica Chastain's character, I don't know what her name is going to be. I think it's like I'm trying to remember the names of the characters from the original series. I'm thinking like Joanne or like Beverly or something like
Beverly.
that. Beverly. Anyway, when this thing confronts Beverly, like, you can tell it never explicitly gives any indication that it is a clown, Pennywise, or whatever. So at this point, we don't know what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And that only adds to the confusion. It's not one of those, oh, I want to know what's going on, I'm interested in the film. It's like, I'm confused, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like, I almost wish the trailer would have given me more to work with. But then again, if you would have watched the first movie of the reboot, this might perk your interest. Like, it maybe because I did not watch the reboot of it just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, that could be it too. And I mean, as well too, if you're familiar with the story to some degree, I think it would help a little bit, like if you've read the books. But that scene in particular, as far as I can remember, is not in the book, or at least it doesn't play out that way. Because when she goes back to her old house, it's like an actual witch or some shit. So I don't really know like what's going on in that. But one of the cool things in that scene is when she gives her the tea, and Jessica Chastain, she drinks it, and she kind of makes a face. In the book, that's actually shit that she's drinking. It's like fecal matter that's in the tea. but she doesn't know it. But she kind of makes a face after she drinks it, and I was like, that's a nice little nod to that. So I wonder if they'll outright
that
say
prolonged creepy face. It almost made you think at first that she got drugged.
Yeah. Like the face she makes when she drinks the tea is like, oh shit, there's something in that, and it's like, yeah, it's something in it. It's some shit, literally. But I really like the old lady. I know she probably won't play a predominant part in the movie, but I'm like, I wish the old lady was in like the entire fucking movie, because that old lady was creepy as shit. Like when she says to her, she's like, oh, well, Derry, like no one's ever really dead. And then she just stares at her for like a solid minute without speaking. And I was just like, get the fuck. I turned into that like obnoxious black lady in the movie theater. I'm like screaming at the TV. It's like, girl, get the fuck out. Like, why is you still here? Leave.
See, that was actually me. I saw Saw 3 in the theater, and that was me. I was laughing. I was screaming. And I was, like, in the back of the theater, so every noise that came out of my mouth would just go right to the front, because, the acoustics. But, no, this film has not got me interested in seeing it. It's more so the cast. That would probably make me want to see this. But of course, if I were to see this, I would have to see the first one first, because I got to do things chronologically. Yeah.
Plus, too, the way they approach it in the remake, in the original remake movie is a little bit different. I mean, it has all the same story beats for the most part. It's a little bit more truer to the book than the miniseries was in some respects, and then in other aspects, just like the miniseries, they kind of leave out the whole thing about the kids having like pretty much a gangbang with Beverly to get out of the sewers and shit. Because that's the one thing about that story. I don't know if that was like at a time where Stephen King was on drugs or some shit, but there's a scene in the book where they have to bond together to get out of the fucking other dimension thing that they're stuck in with it. And they basically figure out that they have to lose their innocence or something like that. So they all take turns fucking Beverly. And they're like 10, 11-year-old kids. And I was like, ooh, like, I don't know what you were trying to say with this, Steven, but like, it's some fucking weird shit, man. So the TV movie, obviously, and the remake just completely just glossed over that part. Like, we're just not even going to even attempt to fuck around with that, because that's just weird. So
I
that's
love how losing your innocence. Usually when anybody uses that term, losing their innocence, it normally implies sex. Like, as if losing your virginity is the only way to lose your innocence. Like, they're the only things correlated.
Yeah. It's like, you would think it would just be like killing something, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did...
But
oh, go ahead.
It is the cast that kind of has me going, oh, okay.
Yeah, we got, like you said, Jessica Chastain. We got...
James McAvoy.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Charles Xavier.
Fucking, Professor X himself.
Fucking Bill. We got
Bill Hader.
MacGruber. Yeah, MacGruber's in this.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking the guy from the Old Spice commercials.
Yeah, that is
I'm on a
him.
Horse. Here's some diamonds.
That is
like,
him.
I want to see him pull this stuff out.
I mean, I wasn't sure if that was him at first, because I was like, man, that dude looks familiar.
Oh no, I saw him and I popped.
That's awesome.
Not gonna lie.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, I think they did a good job casting for the adult versions of the kids. Like, I can see why they picked certain actors to play certain of the kid characters, and I'm like, okay, I can see this. Okay, I can go with this. I think that the visuals look really cool in this, like the scene where he's like luring the little girl like under the bleachers and shit with the light, and he clasps his hands around it, and it goes out, and then he comes back, and his face is all like glowing and shit. Like, I thought that was really cool. There's a shot where Pennywise is like holding like a bunch of balloons, and he's like floating over the big like lumberjack statue in the middle of the town. There's a part where it's like on a bridge, and you just see like all these red balloons starting to spill down. I was like, it was certain visual cues where I was like, wow, this looks really cool. Like, I'm like, I don't know what the context of some of this shit is, but I'm like, it just looks like the director's eye for shots and how he can pose stuff together. I was really impressed with, because I was like, they could have just went the cheap route and just did some like fucking, Annabelle type, bullshit, or The Nun or something like that. But they actually took the time to try to compose some really interesting shot choices. And I was like, this is cool. I like how this is coming together.
I could never See, I understand the red balloons are normally a signal that he's around or something bad's going down.
Yeah.
But whenever I see them balloons, I just instantly think of the 80s song. Like 99. Like, I cannot associate that with Pennywise. I always go back to, like, 99 red balloons.
That's funny.
Right back to the Cold War. Like, it's... Can't help it.
But all that being said, though, I think that the trailer, it actually gave me some horror and some kind of action movie vibes. Because they're, like, the music choice that they have in it is really, like, just really thumping, like, driving music. It's not, like, really creepy, music. It feels more like an action movie in some parts. You see, like, James McAvoy, like, running through a carnival, and people are, like, screaming and all kind of other shit. And it's like, is this, like... But the second half of the story is more of, like, a revenge story of, like, the kids coming back and, like, coming to finally kill Pennywise once and for all. So I could see how there may be some kind of, quote, action-y elements to it, but at the same time, it is still a horror movie, so there's definitely going to be a lot of that for sure. But no, I'm really excited for this, though.
How would they even kill Pennywise? Like, I think that they actually, like, fought Pennywise.
Yeah, they
fight him.
Like,
I'm not afraid of you when somebody like threw an inhaler, or somebody used like a rock and a slingshot, shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering how they would actually approach Pennywise in this film. Once again, though, not enough to make me want to watch it.
Sure. Well, and I remember in a TV movie, I think they pretty much just stab him to death, like when he's a giant spider creature thing. That's why I was like, but that's one of the cool things about Pennywise, and hopefully visually they do something a little bit different in this one, because the whole thing was, because he's this interdimensional creature that's not a clown at all, that's just the form he chooses to take, is that in the story, like, your brain can't comprehend what he looks like because it's something so foreign and abnormal to us that you can't really understand what you're looking at. So instead, your brain just kind of fills in the gaps, and it's just like, yeah, he's a giant spider, I guess. Fuck it. But that's not actually what he is.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see, like, if they do something different with, like, his character design. But
let him just really be a clown.
Yeah, right. He's just fucking.
Why not?
Barnum
and Bailey's just
right, crusty.
There you go. Fucking bozo.
Oh, he's fucking creepy on his own. But when does this come out, Ben?
September 6th, 2019. So this fall.
Okay. Well, hey, we finally got something that's at least kind of close to Halloween, so there's that. All right, moving on.
Clown came into use as the given name of a stock character. Originally a foil for Harlequin, Clown was a buffoon or bumpkin fool who resembled less a jester than a comical idiot.
I know of the two of us, I am definitely more of the comic book geek of the group, or I should probably say of the three of us, including Mel. But have you ever read Watchmen, or did you see the movie?
I've seen part of the original film. I was not gonna watch the entire thing. It was way too long for me.
Oh yeah, I forgot that movie was long as shit too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, but you're kind of familiar with, like, the premise of the whole thing then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, this, from what I can tell, I mean, they haven't released a lot of details about it, but from what it looks like, this is going to be a continuation of the Watchmen story. I don't know how far in the future this is after the original events of the story, and what characters, if any, are going to be returning from this, but it definitely takes place in the Watchmen universe, and it is after the original Watchmen story. That's the only thing I know for certain. I still don't know how I feel about it, though, because I love the graphic novel. I mean, I even appreciate some things about the movie. The movie's not perfect by no stretch of the imagination, but I think it was a pretty loyal adaptation, and it did the best it could. I mean, it could have been better, but it's not horrible by no means. I mean, some people hate that movie just off of the fact that they felt there should never be a movie made of it. But I can appreciate it for what it is, and there are some things that I rather enjoy about it. But I have mad respect for the graphic novel. Like, Alan Moore is a weird, crazy fucking dude, but he's a good comic book writer, and that's probably his magnum opus story is Watchmen. And so this show has a really high bar to clear, because I'm like, I don't know how you continue the story after that. Like, everything besides what DC's been trying to kind of do lately with Watchmen, at least with Dr. Manhattan in particular, trying to incorporate them into the actual DC universe with Superman and everything else. I haven't completely caught up on that, so that I'm still kind of gray on. But as far as someone trying to continue a story in that Watchmen universe, I don't think anyone's done that up until this point. So they got some big fucking shoes to fill. That being said, though, it does pique my interest with some of the casting that they did in this, because I think they got a great cast. I mean, they fucking dug up Don Johnson's ass from wherever the fuck he's been hibernating this whole time. And apparently Jeremy Irons was too busy with this movie or this show to be the voice of Scar in The Lion King, so we know where he's been now. And then they also got what's her name? Regina King?
Regina King.
Yes. They got Regina King in this as well. And a few other people too. Some I didn't recognize, but for the most part, they got a pretty decent cast in this. So I'm looking forward to it, if nothing else, because these actors are good. I don't know. I feel like they can do something cool with this, because at least from what it looks like, and I mean, and tell me if you interpreted this a different way. At least from what I gathered from it, it's something about there's this group of people who are taking Rorschach's visage or whatever, his look, and there's some kind of doomsday cult, maybe, I guess, and they are going out and actively like killing police officers, from what I think is what they were trying to say. And because they show like a police burial, and like I'm pretty sure Don Johnson is the like police captain or whatever, chief of police, something like that. And he says a line about they came after everybody. He was like, all police, and the cops are all wearing these like yellow like bandana masks on the bottom half of their face. And I'm thinking it's because they're trying to protect their identities, because police are being targeted by this group. Like, does that sound
that's possible?
Plausible?
I mean, the premise seems like that's kind of the way it's going, just because, with the Watchmen, they were once considered like victors, saviors, and then again, the population took a turn on them. And so I think this is almost like imagine if Anonymous decided to get proactive and go against the system, like V for Vendetta style, like hardcore, we're going to get you, sucker. And to take out the establishment, they got to start with the police.
And you know what? That makes sense too.
It makes sense to me, because eventually the Watchmen, everybody turned against them.
Yep.
And so it's like, now does that necessarily mean that these people in Rorschach masks are any tie to the Watchmen? Do they got special powers? Are they mutants? Or are they just regular people who've decided, you know what? You're going against the people who helped us, who saved us, who built this country the way it was. We're going to kill you now. Like, obviously, you don't know all that from the trailer, and they're not going to give that away, because that would be a major spoiler. But I did get almost rebellion, but the rebellion was painted as being a bad rebellion.
Yeah. It
and given the fact that it's all in Rorschach masks, which I believe this must be a sequel in the sense that it's. I'm assuming they're going to use Rorschach masks because he died.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In this timeline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure if this is how this will tie into the source material, how this will tie into the Watchmen film. Mm-hmm. I know Rorschach is dead. He was killed. Yep. So it's like, are they doing this like in honor of him?
Which is funny, because if that is, just the fact that they used him as their symbol of them coming together is really odd. It kind of disturbing, because of all the characters besides, like, say, that's what made the Watchmen story so good, is that it was basically like, what if superheroes were real and they were all really fucked up people? It wasn't just like, oh, well, what if, we really had a Superman? It's like, yeah, what if we had a Superman, but he had a fucking, power trip and he was a fucking rapist and shit. It's like that. It's shit like that made that story good, because they all have really deep character flaws and are really just broken human beings, like, all around. Because it kind of looks at it like, if you were to dress up in a costume and go out and, be a vigilante and try and dole out what you think justice is or what it should be, that takes a certain kind of crazy to want to do something like that. So if you were a superhero, more than most likely you are a very damaged person. And outside of the comedian, Rorschach was like the worst of them as far as that goes. I mean, he, his whole life was basically just being Rorschach. Like, he had horrible hygiene. I mean, he was basically like a bum living on the streets, and all he cared about was being Rorschach. Like, that consumed his whole life. And he, over time, became more and more dark. And instead of just, like, arresting people and putting them away, like, he started off with more idealistic goals, and then it just became, I'm just going to just start killing the criminals and shit. No court, no judge, no jury. Like, I am going to just end you and just be done with this shit. And so for them to be using Rorschach as their symbol for their group is really scary, because he had no sense of what we would consider actual justice and, due process and shit like that. It's just like, I saw you doing some bad shit, so I'm going to just kill you. So I'm curious to see what their goals are and what their ideas are going forward, because I almost wonder if the reason that they turned against the police, if it's going to be something that happens in the show, or if it's kind of fallout from what happened at the end of Watchmen. Because at the end of Watchmen, it takes place in like an alternate timeline where, like, the Cold War, tensions are rising, and we are actually getting to the point where we may have a nuclear war with Russia. And the way it ends up being resolved is Ozymandias, who was like the smartest of all the heroes, he designs this whole plan to make the world think that we were invaded by some kind of alien creature that killed like everybody in New York. And then that brings the world together to try and stave off some kind of outer threat. So we would stop fighting with each other, because we realize that there's something bigger than us out there in the universe that could kill us on its own. So it kind of unites the world instead of having us fight each other. I wonder if this whole uprising is going to be because of the fallout from that, because people find out that it was all bullshit, or if this is something completely separate from that, and that has happened and people still don't know that it was faked.
Now, is this information based off of what you've read in the comics, or based off the film? Because from what I remember in the film...
Yeah, and now, in the movie they changed the ending. In the movie, Dr. Manhattan...
Okay.
Yeah, he blows up not only New York, but like all the major cities in the world, like Japan and Moscow and Paris and shit like that. In the comic, it's an alien that Ozymandias created that just blows up New York. In the movie, it's not actually Dr. Manhattan, but Ozymandias makes it look like Dr. Manhattan did it. So they changed the ending some, but it's basically still the same result of the world comes together because they're afraid that Dr. Manhattan's going to punish us if we don't stop our ways and shit like that. So, yeah, in the movie it's a bit different, but it's basically the same results, just how they got to that point is different. But yeah.
Okay, because this all kind of comes back to something we talked about before, involving, Marvel and DC. Mm-hmm. Whereas, from a philosophical point of view, at what point does somebody become so powerful that they are a threat to everybody else, regardless of whether or not they're good or bad? Because this all, as far as I'm aware of, Dr. Manhattan kind of took the blame for everything, even though he had nothing to do with it.
Yep. In the movie, he basically concedes to Ozymandias that yes, this will bring the world back together, so it's better for us to not tell people. And in the book, he does the same thing, but he's not thought to be the blame of it, but he does kill Rorschach to stop Rorschach from exposing the truth to the rest of the world, because, you know, Rorschach was like, no, like, you know, this is wrong. Like, you killed, you know, millions of fucking people. Like, we cannot let this go.
Because it really puts you into an ethical and a moral quandary. Like, what's better? Letting the people come to their own decisions by giving them the truth and letting them decipher that information, or by focusing everybody to work together over a lie? Right. If a lie brings peace, what's better? Lying or the truth?
No,
and
that's a good point.
That's something that I think, just the idea of the Watchmen in the story, from what I've seen, I think is a fucking great thing. Like, I like that. It makes you, as somebody who just watches this or reads this, have to think heavily about.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, what would you do in that situation? It's like, is there a right answer?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, because that's why I say that's, you know, and most people agree. I mean, it's the only comic book that I know of that's on, like, Time Magazine's best 100 novels of all time. So it you know, it definitely has it made a lot of waves in, like, not only the comic industry, but just, you know, in general in pop culture, because the story had so many different layers to it, and it poses such deep questions. Because there's a line where Night Owl, he says to Ozymandias, he's like, you know, you're killing millions, and he's like, to save billions. And it's like well, he makes a good argument. It's kind of like the Thanos thing, where it's like, you know, what he's saying is fucked up, but you can kind of see the logic behind it at the same time. So yeah. I think that's what makes a great villain.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because his self-righteousness is being framed as altruistic.
Yeah.
And the fact that he gives you an explanation that somewhat makes sense, you're more compelled to relate to that character. And you're right, that does make a good bad guy. Somebody who you can justify being bad.
Yeah, because it's like...
Not saying that I agree with it, but that there's justification, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you as a person don't agree with it, but you can see how he's convinced himself that this is the right thing to do. It's just taking something that could have merit to it to its, like, most extreme level.
But then again, you know, there's that cliche, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. You might mean well, but if you're going to kill millions of innocent people over a cause they have absolutely no awareness of, are you really doing the right thing? And I love the fact that it leaves questions like that.
Oh, yeah.
Which honestly makes me think I might have to go back and watch the full movie.
Oh, you should.
And get my hands on the comics. And maybe I should follow this HBO series when it comes out.
I think that HBO is hoping that this will be their new Game of Thrones once Game of Thrones is over, because there's been people apparently, I don't know, I have not watched a single season of Game of Thrones, so I'm kind of out of that loop, but apparently people are not happy about this last season, and I've been seeing people constantly bitching about it on Twitter. And so, you know, HBO is kind of like throwing this out there, like, please don't cancel your fucking subscription. Like, please keep watching HBO. Like, look, we got this Watchmen show coming and some other shit. Just please don't leave.
Well, while I know nothing of Game of Thrones, I know that fan culture, especially for something held so dearly as Game of Thrones, is toxic.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense that it doesn't matter what you do, inevitably shit is going to hit the fan in the story, and you're not going to please everybody. Yep. So you know what? It's like, I don't know if objectively what they're doing is okay, because I don't follow the series, but you can't go in with that mentality. You got to go in with the mentality that you're going to piss some people off.
Oh, yeah.
Period. So, like, HBO ought to just brush it off.
Yeah.
They've had this going for how many seasons now? They've made a shit ton of money off it. They got eyes watching it. If HBO even fucks up, they're still well in the green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of like that line from The Dark Knight where it's like, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. No matter what you do, no matter how beloved something is, the longer it's around, eventually people will grow to hate it. So, especially when it's something that's coming to its closure, you will never please everybody. There's always going to be that contingent of fans who, no matter what you do, they have their own canon in their head for how they want to see it end, and if it doesn't like meet that to the letter, they're gonna be pissed off. So,
oh yeah, and as subjective as it is, you should not cater your narrative integrity to the people who watch your show.
no.
If you know what you're if doing something that you think or know is bad or just not as good as what you could do, and you do it only to appease the fans, then it's, I don't know, ethically I don't think it'd be worth it. Financially, fuck yeah, it would be, because the more people watch and the more money you get. But like,
It's funny because
a good
we
story
have
is
that
a good
same
story regardless of who likes it.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because we have that same issue right now with, oddly enough, the Sonic movie, where they're actually going
yeah.
and changing. Now, they're not changing the story, but they're redesigning the character. And I've seen people make the argument, like, you know, you're taking away the artistic vision of the director and whoever else, you know, who chose this design by doing that. And I'm like, well, one, no one made them do it. They could have just said, fuck you, this is what we're doing, and y'all gonna like it. But two, I feel like if you're going to change something, granted, you never can really know if it's for the better from its original inception, but if you're going to change something, aesthetics is probably the least, you know, like harmful thing you can, you know, ask somebody to change, because they're not going to rewrite the movie. They're not going to reshoot this shit. They're just changing the design of the character. So that in and of itself, I don't think is that big of a deal, because the guy who created the God of War franchise, I forget his name, but he came out on Twitter and he was like, you know, I don't feel comfortable, you know, being a creator in this time where, you know, backlash can make people have to change their artistic vision. And I'm like, they're not rewriting the movie, man. Like, it's still going to be a shitty movie. It's just going to be a shitty movie with a more accurate, better looking Sonic. That's all. So I'm like, that doesn't bother me. But I agree with your point, though, that, you know, if you're, granted, yes, to some degree, you don't ever want to make something that people are just going to hate, because what's the point? But at the same time, you can't let them hold your vision hostage to what they want. And sometimes you just have to go, you know, some people are not going to be happy with this, but this is what I want to do, so this is where I'm going with it.
Yeah, because everybody's already, I mean, if you piss people off, it's almost a good thing, because any reaction's better than no reaction. People are going to watch Game of Thrones, since we're kind of on that trail, regardless of what you do with it, because they're not going to know what you've done with it until you watch it.
Exactly.
So it's like, let the people bitch, and then learn from the bitching what to do if you're going to continue going forward.
Not only that, but I think that a lot of times things are underappreciated when they first come out, and in time, you know, people will look back and be like, you know what? That actually wasn't as bad as we thought it was.
Game of Thrones could become, I mean, I don't know if you can really be a cult classic when you were popular from jump, but it could be in the same spectrum.
Yeah. Where
10 years down the road, a new generation of people can watch it when it's on DVD or on demand or whatever and go, holy shit, this was good.
Exactly. I agree.
And then again, if it gets to a point where a show jumps the shark, maybe the show's just been on too much.
That's usually the problem.
Maybe you got to come to a close. Yeah, come to a close.
Is that they just keep milking it, and by the time they get to the point where they are ready to shut it down, it's like you can't tie all this shit together. It's kind of like Lost. Like, Lost should have been like 2 seasons, 3 max, but they went about 2 seasons too long, and by the time they finally were ready to end it, it was like, no matter what you do at this point, y'all have set up so much shit that you cannot satisfactorily answer by the end, that no one's going to be happy with this by the time it's over.
Well, maybe that's what they've done with Game of Thrones. Maybe they book themselves up against a wall where they have to do something, and no matter what it is they do, they're going to upset somebody.
Yep.
Who the fuck knows? I don't watch that show. We're talking about the Watchmen here on HBO, not Game of Thrones. We've kind of gone off on a tangent,
right.
And we've almost like completely contradicted ourselves in some stuff we said. So back to Watchmen. They have not given an official release date. However, like most TV shows, even on premium stations like that, as long as it's not going to be a mid-season replacement for something, it's probably going to start in September.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be on their streaming platform and all that. They're not going to release it all in one chunk. I wish they would, because But I feel like streaming services are getting smarter about that shit, except for, like, say, Netflix. But, like, Hulu, I've noticed, has been doing it a lot. I know HBO does it, where even though all this shit's filmed and in the can and ready to be released, they release it to you piecemeal to keep you from just getting a subscription for, like, 30 days and then canceling it, just watching it real quick and then just jumping off. Like, they're like, no, if you're going to watch this shit, you're going to pay us to watch this fucking shit.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you're paying $10 to $15 a month for a show and you only get one episode every week and they got 10 episodes, are you really going to want to pay $20 to $30 to $40, $50 just to watch one show? No, they're probably going to assume you're going to want to watch other programming, and a lot of people don't really do that.
Yeah.
We all have lives anyway. Even though we have it on demand and can watch something whenever we want, we're not going to space our lives around television shows.
Right. Well, we don't have to anymore because now we can watch it whenever we want, wherever we want. You got a phone, you can watch pretty much anything fucking that's accessible over the internet. So,
oh yeah, we are in the age of instant gratification, which is a bad thing, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. Now, if you are interested in Watchmen, keep in mind it is on HBO, which means this is not going to be watered down. This is going to be hardcore. It should be hardcore because HBO's premium. That means there could be nudity. There's going to be a lot of profanity. There could be some gore. That's a good thing because Watchmen is not something for the faint of heart.
No, God, no. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And once that first episode comes out, because we have HBO now after my whole Comcast rant, so I'm definitely gonna check out the first episode, and if I like it, we may end up talking about it on the show if it's worth our time, at least, and then we may actually have something that we can talk about week to week. Everybody seems to be riding the Game of Thrones cock. Maybe this will be our Game of Thrones. But until then,
some people got to ride that Game of Thrones coffee,
right? Right, that Starbucks, right?
Oh yeah.
But until then, moving on.
HBO is making a loud plea to its customers. Please, for the love of God, don't cancel your subscription after Game of Thrones ends. We'll suck your dick, please.
Welcome to Benwah's Rabbit Hole. It's where I, Benwah, give you a brief synopsis of random things I found interesting on the internet. Some of these things may be further elaborated on in future podcasts, but I'd recommend you dig deeper for yourself if you're interested.
The views and opinions expressed in the Wabbit Hole are those of Benwah's and Benwah's alone, and do not necessarily reflect the position of any member, affiliate, or future sponsor, despite us not having any, of the One Giant Leap for Geeks podcast.
Many things will be happening with Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox, including inclusion of much content for the new streaming service, Disney Plus, launching in North America on November 12th. We've already gone over that. Now, one thing that was thought of as being up in the air given the purchase was a full-length feature film of one of the most popular modern Fox properties, the animated series Bob's Burgers. The idea of a movie has been out there for years, even having a tentative release date of Friday, July 17th, 2020. Now, not only has that not changed, but it's definitely happening. There will be a Bob's Burgers movie. Back in 2018, show creator Lauren Bouchard revealed that the film would be a musical comedy with a subplot of the youngest child of the family, 9-year-old Louise Belcher, going on an adventure with her nightlight. That's all I know about the film right now, which is good enough for me and probably good enough for you too if you're a fan of Bob's Burgers. But the show and the film now aren't the only things on Lauren Bouchard's plate. Debuting next year on Fox will be another animated creation of his titled The Great White North. This series will see the Alaskan adventures of the Tobin family, led by a single father trying to keep his children close as his only daughter is coming of age. The Great White North is just one of the few animated programs slated for Fox in the upcoming years. Bless the Hearts will be debuting this fall, and Duncanville will follow suit mid-season. Back in 2017, 8 people were brutally murdered in a shooting spree in Dallas during a football watching party. The gunman was taken down by police, and his name will not be mentioned. However, during the autopsy, he was found to have a blood alcohol content of 0.333. That's 1/3 of his blood being concentrated with alcohol, more than 4 times the legal limit. Unfortunately, the shooter may have taken part in making another victim in Lindsay Glass, the woman who served him on the night of the tragedy. Over a year and a half after this event, she was charged with selling alcohol to an intoxicated person. Glass served him 5 drinks over the course of 2 visits that day. According to the affidavit, she texted a coworker given concerns over the behavior of the soon-to-be shooter, saying, and I quote, "drunk and being weird, keeps saying he has to put someone in his place, and that she thought he was at another bar between his 2 visits to her bar." Security footage showed the man playing with a knife and even pulling a gun from his waistband. Both Glass and her coworker tried to stop the shooter from leaving the bar and attempted to follow him, even calling 911, reaching the house where the shooting took place, and flagging down a sheriff's deputy, but it was all in vain. According to Glass's lawyer, during her interviews with detectives over the incident, she was commended for her actions and the potential lives she saved. Now, no court date has been set for the case, but she faces a fine of $100 to $500, a year in jail, or both if she's found guilty of serving a man who's already intoxicated. Personally, this is bullshit. This woman went out of her way to try and stop the guy. Regardless of whatever laws are in place about serving those assumed to be drunk, many establishments require that you keep serving patrons, unofficially of course, because God forbid servers have a conscience or no patience for being harassed. And it's possible she could have lost her job if she cut him off, or risked her own life and everybody else's in the bar had she intervened more. Nobody should have to experience the nightmare of confronting anybody who's under the influence and acting suspicious, especially a woman confronting a man. They deal with too much shit already. And I know Texas gets a hard-on over guns, but is it legal to be drinking while carrying? I mean, in the case of concealment, shouldn't that be disclosed when you're in a place that serves alcohol, especially if you're going to be drinking? That's a deadly combination. Obviously. Anyway, good luck to you, Miss Glass. Now, speaking of beer, if you like piss water, Natural Light, better known as Natty Light, is looking for a summer intern to be an ambassador for the brand. You get to travel around to special events, promoting that nastiness and working the interwebs, marketing and blogging your journey along the way. While they did not specify qualifications, I'm assuming you need to be ambitious, motivated, charismatic, approachable, and know how to do that Tweety thing. It probably wouldn't hurt if you were cute too. Also, you have to be at least 21 and not mind drinking urine. This gig is short term, but it supposedly will pay up to $40 an hour. So if you're interested, there's a little less than 2 weeks left to submit an application, as they'll be accepting them from now until May 26th. Konami has recently updated their rules for Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments. Players need to stop being gross. This should be common sense, but they had to make it official as too many people, not just in gaming tournaments but at conventions as well, have that stagnant mom's basement aesthetic and scent. Bathe regularly, use deodorant, wear clean clothes, and look presentable. Don't just do it for everybody around you, but do it for yourself. Basic hygiene is imperative. Also, don't eat or drink anything that makes you gassy. Many of these buildings aren't adequately ventilated. Now, that's not an official rule, but a prayer from an atheist. Finally, by a narrow margin, Denver, Colorado will be decriminalizing the hallucinogen in mushrooms. This doesn't make mushrooms legal, as they're still illegal under state and federal law. It just deprioritizes the shrooms. Opponents of this worry that it could lead to increased drug use, and even experts say bad trips could be dramatic and psychologically damaging, especially to those predisposed to mental illness. Advocates argue that it'll shift law enforcement resources away from nonviolent offenses. They claim it's not really that addictive, if addictive at all, and even have evidence suggesting there are therapeutic benefits for those suffering from illness.
And now back to your regularly scheduled podcast. Disney is making a Bob's Burgers film for Disney+. Okay, you got me. Do I make the check out to the mouse, or how does this work?
Finally made it to the promised land. It was told to us many, many moons ago, up high on the mountain, that one day we would receive a gift from the proverbial gods, the video gaming gods, and now I hope that moment is here. We've been waiting for this game for what feels like about 3 months past forever, and I fear that even when we get it, it may not live up to the hype. But Final Fantasy VII is finally being remade, and I could not be happier. I don't normally get giddy about RPGs. I like the Fallout franchise mostly. I really like the Final Fantasy franchise, and there's like one or two others that I've played that, you know, I've enjoyed, but RPGs in general, I don't just, you know, lose my shit about, but Final Fantasy was like, that's my RPG, like, virginity game that I lost, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm just worried because RPGs, even the Final Fantasy franchise itself, has changed so much since 7 that it's not going to be that same game. Yes, you'll fight the same bosses. Yes, you'll have the same levels, but the combat mechanics and everything else is going to be completely different. It's not going to be turn-based like it used to be. And I think when they first changed that, people were upset, but we've kind of gotten past it at this point. And I don't think you can go back to turn-based, not on like a console game, PS4, PS5 maybe. Like, no one's going to accept that at this point anymore. So I'm curious to see what the gameplay mechanics are going to be like. But just the fact that I get to see, you know, Cloud and Tifa again is I'm happy for, if nothing else, just that. And just, I mean, beautifully rendered. Like that little trailer that they showed, I was like, oh, this looks just like miles better than what we grew up playing. If you play the original Final Fantasy VII, you were basically playing like Minecraft. Like, what I can compare it to at this point. Maybe not quite that bad, but not much better than that either. So I know that you're in RPGs and stuff. Do you have a history with Final Fantasy VII or just Final Fantasy in general?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you're a stickler against remakes and shit like that, but what do you feel about this?
Well, I don't mind remakes depending on what they do. However, when it comes to this, like, you couldn't even see me, but I was like doing the jack off thing. And not like the happy masturbation, more like the, oh, this shit again.
Okay.
Listen, I'm surprised this cow still has milk. They just keep milking fucking FF7. Come on, Square Enix. Like, do something different.
Yeah, that's fair. Because what was that last one that just came out?
Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, and they threw Cloud in there.
And this looks from the trailer. Yeah, this looks like it's going to play more akin to FF15, which is more of an action-based RPG. This is going to have nothing to do with the original FF7 except for the aesthetics. And, I mean, who's to say? They might add something and do something a little bit different with the plot. You know, some side quests and shit, which I understand, but it's like, this is not going to be the same game that came out 22 years ago.
No. Though that being said, though, I have hope for it because from everything, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but everything I've seen and watched, the Resident Evil 2 remake came out pretty damn good.
Yeah, it did, and now some people might knock me for kind of shitting on the remake of 7, even though it hasn't come out yet, but liking what I've seen thus far of the remake of RE2. Mm-hmm. Now, part of that is that all the Resident Evil games, all the numeral ones, have had some kind of, you know, remaster or remake, with the exception of 2 and Nemesis, which is 3. Now, of course, 7 hasn't been remade because it's really new, but you know what I mean? Like, 5 and 6 have had different releases, and 0 and 1 and 4 have been remastered or whatever. So I was waiting for 2 and 3 to be remastered or remade or whatever. And they did change the mechanics of 2 because it's no longer tank controls. However, they did maintain that survival horror element to it, where it's not straight up full on action like RE4 and 5 were, and even 6 were.
Yeah,
but when it comes to 7, they're going to completely change up FF7, and that irks me.
Well, see, and I think that's the difference between Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 7, like as far as the remakes go, because at least with RE2, like you said, the characters don't control like a fucking tank anymore, but there's not really anything. I mean, it's a survival horror game, so as far as game mechanics, there wasn't really anything that they could and or needed to change. I mean, it doesn't have fixed camera angles like the original did. It doesn't have the tank controls, which, made it a little bit harder to maneuver and get out of situations, which in and of itself caused some tension and stuff like that, in the game. But as far as the game itself, from everything I've seen, it still plays the same way for the most part. So it's like that's not anything that you're changing. With Final Fantasy VII, it's like fundamentally changing how the game is played.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole new engine. Now, of course, there's a whole new engine with RE2, so that on itself is a moot point. But they still maintain the ambiance. Right. And the whole tank controls weren't necessary for a game that came out on the PlayStation. They could have done better. But the whole fixed camera angles, the pre-rendered graphics, that was just due to hardware limitations. Right. Final Fantasy VII really did quite a bit on the PlayStation when it came out. And this remake is completely changing the core mechanics of the game, like completely. And I don't think it's for the better. Now, I know I'm saying that as somebody who obviously hasn't played the game yet, but Final Fantasy, ever since Final Fantasy 12, it's no longer feeling like the same JRPG it used to. And some people think, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, maybe it evolves as a series, but I don't know. I may just be the old guy not liking it because, it's new and different. But in changing the core mechanics of the game, it feels like the modern Final Fantasies, 12, 13, 15. Yeah, 12, 13, and then upcoming 15. They feel like if you were to put a whole different label, sticker, and give it a whole different name, it wouldn't feel at all like a Final Fantasy.
Right.
And that's what bothers me.
I definitely know what you mean. I'm curious because there's things about this that I'm really looking forward to, but it's mostly on an aesthetic level, because I remember when they showed that graphics demo for when the PS3, I believe, was coming out, using like the opening cinematic from FF7, and like me included, people lost their fucking shit. And at the time, they had to keep reiterating, like, we're not remaking Final Fantasy VII. We're just showing you the, graphical power of the PS3 and how, far we've come and what a game like this would look like on the PS3 now, just for, like, comparison's sake. But I think that was the mistake they made then, because it was like, look, you can't do anything. If you show Cloud Strife in anything, people are going to be like, I want to play fucking Final Fantasy VII again. So it's like the moment you cock teased him, you open up Pandora's box. Like, there was no going back at that point. From that moment forward, even there were probably rumblings of it before that, but it got even louder after that tech demo. People have been like, you need to remake Final Fantasy VII. Like, if you're going to remake anything, remake this game. And I can understand the sentiment behind it. And I do want to play the game. Like, when it comes out, I am going to get it. I am going to play it. But I've kind of acquiesced to the fact that it's not going to be the FF7 that I played. So, if anything, I'm curious to see what this reimagining of that game is going to be. Because, like we've already said, it's fundamentally different. But if they can do something different in a positive way, then I'm for it. I'm open to change. Like, I don't have a problem with them changing it. I just hope it's for the better. But I do got a little like tidbit of information, because we don't know a whole lot right now, because in that trailer, I think they said more details in June or something like that. So I don't know if it's going to be at E3 or what's going to happen, but they're going to make some kind of more official announcement about it. But I'm getting this from GameSpot. Says it's been 4 years since Square Enix announced a full remake of a JRPG classic Final Fantasy VII for PS4 at E3 2015. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's for... No, I'm sorry. When they announced the actual remake was on the PS4. When they showed the tech demo, that was back on the PS3. And 22 years since the original game was released in 97 for the PS1. We've seen and heard very little about the remake since it was officially revealed, but Final Fantasy VII fans have finally have more tangible footage to get hyped about, thanks to the recent State of Play broadcast. They go on to say, while the latest trailer didn't reveal many new details, Square Enix did confirm that the Final Fantasy VII Remake will be released in multiple installments, and that more information will be shared in June, presumably at the publisher's E3 conference on June 10th. Each installment will be quite substantial. In fact, producer told Game Informer in 2016, each part will essentially be a full-scale game rather than a series of small episodes. So, my thing is, that's kind of my sticking point. Are they going to piecemeal this shit out and kind of make it like a Walking Dead kind of Telltale game, you know, like Batman thing, where they're just going to keep, you know, cock teasing you along to keep buying more shit, to keep, you know, because I mean, like you said, they're going to milk this shit. They've been milking Final Fantasy VII between the movies and, you know, the other offshoots and shit like that and everything else for years now. But I'm just worried that they know that there's always going to be an audience for Final Fantasy VII content, so they're just going to keep piecemealing the game out, and that's what kind of bothers me. They say that each installment will be like a full-scale game, but what does that mean in comparison to what? Because Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy 13, like a lot of these games are like 60-plus hour games, and if you try to collect everything and get the best weapons and upgrade everything to its maximum amount, even more than that. So I don't know what that means when they say a full-scale game with each installment. Like, are we talking 10 hours, 20 hours, 30, 40 hours? Like, what does that mean?
Is it going to be like, you know, BS Zelda? Is it going to be like you said, like a Telltale game? Is it going to be like where, okay, episode 1 is a full game in itself, but it's you pretty much trying to escape from Midgar? Like, is that... And then part 2 is like, once you escape from Midgar, just get into the... You know, getting to the other side of the mountain. Like, what do they mean by that? I don't know either. I have no idea.
That's the one thing that makes me hesitant about it, because I'm like, I just feel like, and I mean, don't get me wrong, Square Enix, I mean, as far as I can think in recent memory, I mean, they've had some issues in the past, but I mean, they've never really put out anything where it's just like, we're just gonna pretty much microtransaction the fuck out of this shit and just, you know, and just use this as a subscription service more so than just a standalone game. But I mean, who knows? My biggest question is, though, how do you feel how do you feel about our boy Barrett Wallace? I've seen some rumblings about him online, and people were like, you know, this would have been a good opportunity remaking this game to, you know, because Final Fantasy VII has a pretty diverse cast, you know, of characters, and this would have been a good opportunity to do justice to the diversity you're having, and not just having diversity as in like cardboard cutouts and stereotypes of different people and races. And I've seen some people kind of call maybe a little bit of racism on Barrett's character. Like, how do you feel about that?
I won't know until they flesh out more.
Fair, but I guess just off of what they've shown of him, I guess it's mainly his voice is what people have a problem with. Because he's kind of like, hey, Cloud, what's up, brother? Like, let's kill these scorpions, baby.
I mean, you could, if the American localization wasn't meh, you might have been able to say the same thing back in 1997. Mm-hmm. So, like, how it's going to be one of those things where obviously he's a black guy. So, how black are they going to make him? Will it be too black? Will it not be black enough? Like, I don't know at this moment.
Right.
Is he going to speak in, like, jive? Is he going to have slang? Is he going to speak ebonics? Like, well, I mean, he's a black guy who lives in the slums.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? And these are and this is Japan we're talking about.
Right.
They have no problem with caricatures.
No. They still have basically, I guess, what you could consider our version of like minstrel shows. Because I've seen shit with them in like blackface and shit like that, but they don't look at it the same way that we do though. I don't think that they mean it in a malicious way like our culture has used it before though.
Well, I was about to say, you mentioned blackface. Either it was last year or 2 years ago, I don't know. I've briefly mentioned to you how I love watching Batu games. And a couple of years ago, they had one where they were detectives, and in one of them, Hamada, who is one of the comedians, actually had to dress up like Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop, and they literally had him in a Detroit jersey or a Detroit jacket, a leather jacket, and blackface, and they received a lot of backlash from that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, not surprising. Yeah,
but like when it comes to this whole, what are they going to do with Barrett? Let's be real. I'm a white dude. Like, I could not tell you how to appropriately make the character, how to voice him, how to give him his dialogue, how to give him his facial expressions and his mannerisms. That's not for me to decide. Now, mind you, if I think they go overboard, I will say something. But like at this moment in time, it's like they haven't given me enough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think at the same time too, like none of these characters are like subtle. You know, like, yes, they have character development and they have layers to them to degrees, but I mean, these are very exaggerated, you know, like over the top. I mean, like, have you not seen Tifa's tits? Like, come on, man. Like these characters are like massively exaggerated. So it's like they all have, you know. Yeah.
Tifa's Lara Croft.
Right. Man, no, Lara Croft wishes she was Tifa. Or maybe not. I don't know. I feel like that'd be a lot of back pain, but still, it's like they have never really had, like, you know, modest character designs in any respect. So it doesn't bother me. Like, and honestly, I mean, I don't know. Like, I get it. People are like, man, like, it's 2019. Like, we couldn't have found a different way to, because I mean, even if that's how he came across in the game, in the original Japanese incarnation of the remake, they didn't have to do that for the Americanized version. But I don't know. So if anything, I would more so, if you're going to point the blame at somebody, point the blame at, you know, the Americanized version as opposed to its original intent in Japanese. Because I'm sure they didn't give him notes like, you know, make him sound like Kevin Hart or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Like, it doesn't bother me on its face, but like you said, once you play the game and get a little bit more context and see more about how they're representing his character, it might be different. But I was kind of bummed we didn't see Tifa in the trailer, because I was like looking like, okay, like where's Tifa at? Like, y'all.
Yeah, it was really just Cloud.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so we ain't gonna show. Okay, all right. So,
but you know, there's gonna be a lot of people crying when Ares dies. Oh, spoiler alert, she dies.
Yeah, Sephiroth got in that ass, boy.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, so we'll know more about this come June. I mean, who knows? They might give us a straight up release date. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out this holiday season, but it could get pushed back to 2020. I don't know. I mean, it really depends on what Sony announces at E3. Like, if Sony announces the PS5 for this holiday season, it's coming out this holiday season. If not, it may get pushed back to 2020. But we'll see, though. All right, any other final thoughts on FF7?
FF6 is better.
Oh, shots fired.
I'm not saying Final Fantasy VII is a bad game, but it's all hype. It was back then in 97, RPGs were still not a really popular mainstream thing when it comes to American video games. But FF7 was a relatively new genre to introduce on a relatively newer 2-year-old console that got heavily promoted. Hell, I even remember Pepsi had an advertisement deal with Square at the time. I saw Cloud Strife on a 12-pack of Pepsi. And this game was, the introduction for a lot of people, not just into RPGs, but in the whole Final Fantasy franchise as a whole, which is why it resonates so much with people. Arguably, Final Fantasy VI, well, I'm not even going to say arguably, Final Fantasy VI is, if you compare 7 at its time to 6 at its time, 6 is a much better game. And I'm not saying that because I played, 6 and 4 before I played 7. I'm saying it because it's fucking true. So to all those people out there who, okay, somebody's probably going to argue with me over this. 6 is better than 7. I'm bring it.
All right, you heard it here, folks.
Also, Square Enix, stop milking goddamn 7. Yeah. Please. What is it? I hate how everybody is trying to bring back shit from the past. Can we get something fucking new, please?
They did. They gave us 15, and everybody hates it.
Everybody doesn't hate it, but from what I've seen of 15 and what I've played briefly of 12 and seen of 13, they don't feel like Final Fantasy games anymore. Like I said, you give them a different title, give them a different cover, you wouldn't know the difference.
No. I feel like they had to throw Cloud into 15 because it was like, if not, nobody will know what the fuck this is. It's like, this is still Final Fantasy. Like, oh, okay. But yeah.
And I'm sorry, Cloud is a bitch. Not as bad as Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, but Cloud's a little bit of a bitch.
I'll give you that. Honestly, I think part of it is, like you said, it was a lot of people's first introduction into RPGs, like including myself, and the fact that Cloud is such an iconic character design. Like, between his hair and that fucking ginormous broadsword, like, that is what, when most people bring up Final Fantasy, even if you're not a gamer, probably general public, that's what they think of when they think of Final Fantasy, is Cloud.
But that's advertising.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Final Fantasy VII is overrated trash. Shadow Madness is much better. Yeah, that's right, you heard me, bitches.
I do not condone violence against children. I do not find the brutal beating and just the whole massacring of children amusing usually, but I'm gonna say that I am probably gonna go to hell because of how hard that I laughed at this shit. I mean, like, straight to hell. So there's this video that was on Twitter that's going viral, and it's actually a snippet of a longer video that's on YouTube from a channel called like Raka Raka or something like that. And apparently they have a few other videos of Ronald McDonald just going postal. But basically the clip, the original clip that I saw on Twitter was, it looks like it's inside a McDonald's like playhouse or some shit like that. And there's a little girl having a fist fight with Ronald McDonald and pretty much whooping his ass until like Ronald finally, snaps and then begins beating the shit out of the girl. And then it escalates to a point where he pulls a fucking hatchet out and then stabs her to death with it. And then literally for the next like 5 minutes, it's just a spree of him just murdering kids. And it is the funniest shit I've seen in a long fucking time. Like I sent it to Benwah, and like the first thing I said to him after, he saw it, I was like, I'm going to go to hell for how hard I laughed at this, because it was fucked up. I like the It movie. I just got done gushing about it earlier in the podcast, but honestly, if they made a movie of this, I would watch this so many more times than the fucking It movie, because It was funny. It was gory as shit, but it was really inventive in how he was killing the kids too. Like when he's choking the one kid to death, and like the kid's like trying to like claw at his face and shit, and he's just like staring off into like the distance as he's like just choking the life out of this poor child. I think there's even a scene where they're going down a slide. Am I right? And he's like stabbing some kid in the fucking stomach or some crazy shit. Like, it was beautiful.
I did not realize this was as deep as that. I'm actually watching one of the videos right now, and he's just shooting people in the head.
Yeah, from what I know, there's like a few videos from that channel of them like doing shit like this, but this is the first one I had ever come across, and I was just like, I've never, in all my years on the internet, I've never come across this until now, and I'm mad that I've missed out on this all these years, because I was like, this is some, it's some dark shit, but it's fucking hilarious.
Oh. Yeah, he just dunked her head into a fryer.
Oh, shit.
Now he's pouring salt on her face.
Like, I think there's even a part where he rips a kid's tongue out his mouth, and then he bites onto it, and like he's shaking it around like it's his own tongue. It goes fucking like really, really crazy.
Yeah, this is clearly some Grindhouse inspired short films based on Ronald McDonald.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna make another Killer Clown anything, get these dudes to do the shit, because they would need a big budget, because it doesn't look like they had to spend a lot of money on this, but I promise you they could make some crazy fucking shit. Because this is just like horrifying and hilarious all at the same time. I'm pretty sure the name of the YouTube channel is Raka Raka or Raka Raka, something like that. It's like,
it is okay. Raka Raka, Racka.
Yeah.
And they do more than just, by the looks of it, they do more than just like McDonald stuff. And they are really popular. 5.4 million subscribers.
Jesus. And again, I'm shocked. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I'm shocked I've never come across these guys before. But this is some like next level, like you said, like Grindhouse, like trauma film type, just gore. Like I'm pretty sure there's a part where he like guts a kid with a chainsaw in like the fry room. It reminded me in parts of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or what was the one called, Freddy versus Jason, where Jason is killing the kids out in the cornfield during a rave and shit. It's just a good 5 minutes of just like a killing spree against small children, and it is fucking hilarious. Now, again, One Giant Leap for Geeks does not condone child murder. That being said, though, if you make Ronald McDonald doing it, I'll co-sign it. I enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, he's already killing the kids slowly with their food.
There you go. Yeah, I was going to say, he's killing y'all with fucking high cholesterol and diabetes and all kind of other shit. So, heart disease and whatever else you probably getting from eating this shit. So, I mean, at least this way it's quick. I want to say, too, that I feel like of all the fast food mascots, that if anybody were to go on like a mass killing spree, I feel like it would be Ronald McDonald. And I don't know if that's just because he's a clown or because he's so friendly. Like, I don't know. There's always been something about Ronald McDonald that's been disturbing to me.
There's always something about
yeah,
clowns.
I guess so. I guess you're right. And I don't know why. Like what is it about clowns that we don't like? Because there was a time where people loved clowns. Like, what changed? I mean, but not counting John Wayne Gacy, but...
Did people ever really love clowns?
I don't know. I feel like they've always been around, so maybe? Maybe we just tolerated them this whole time?
Yeah.
I want to go into, like, the history of clowns and figure out, like how did this start? Like, what made people start wanting to put on the face paint and the wigs and the noses and shit like that? Like, you could have been you could have done all these things in any other form. Why specifically that? I wonder, like, what it ties back to. And, like, when did...
Oh, I'm sure that ties back to Europe and the UK. Jesters.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, and it kind of just evolved into what the modern-day clown is, what we consider modern-day clowns now. I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say they devolved into the modern-day clown because jesters were usually held in high esteem.
Good point.
Could often have advisory roles, or be the only ones who could actually talk shit to, like, royalty and those who are regal.
Right, not have their fucking heads chopped off for it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like Ronald McDonald with the chainsaw to children.
Oh, yeah, he even cracks a joke in there, or there's a joke in it, where he's like, you know, there's this kid crying, and he pisses himself, and, like, Ronald, like, puts the cup underneath the kid, and, like, drinks his piss from the cup. It is fucking... it is so fucked up. But he says to the kid, he's like, oh, it's okay. He's like, I'll give you a chance. He's like, what's your favorite hamburger? And the kid's like, a Whopper. And he's like, what the fuck?
Ooh. I'm sorry, but that kid had it coming.
I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah, and I guess like like I said, it's a much longer skit than the few minutes that are on Twitter floating around right now. Like, I'm sure if you go to the YouTube channel, you can see the full video, but I guess it starts off with, like, some bullies, like, bullying the main kid into saying Ronald McDonald in the mirror 3 times, kind of like Candyman.
Yeah, I saw the beginning of
and
that
I'm just
one,
like,
yeah.
what? Like, I saw, like I said, the setup to it was really weird, and, like, when Ronald McDonald appears, like, as the kids, they just go off and play after that in the playpen and all that shit. And when he finally does show up, he's all like, you know, hey, kids, and all that shit. And then they go just beat the shit out of him. So the turn comes after he's been getting beat on by these kids this whole time, you know, and they're all like, fight, 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 fight. And he finally, you know, snaps, and then he starts saying fight, fight. But then he starts stabbing the girl in the head with an axe. And I was like, oh, this got dark. I was like, that is not where I thought this was going. But I guess if I'd have seen the other videos, I would have, you know, known how this is going to turn out, but this was all foreign to me, and I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all. So if anybody wants to check this video out, I believe it's Ronald McDonald Playground Slaughter. So just search that on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about, but it is fucking, it is not for the faint of heart. Like, we were talking about how it and Watchmen and shit is not for the faint of heart. Like, if you don't like gore or seeing kids murdered, don't watch this, because in most movies they cut away from that kind of shit. You don't actually see the kid die. No, he straight up kills kids, and you see it, like, very graphically throughout this whole fucking thing.
Yeah, I wonder how they can monetize. They probably can't even.
Oh no, that whole channel has been demonetized.
That's yeah. But 5.4 million subscribers,
and I see why. I mean, that one video alone would be enough
Christ.
to get 1 million subscribers just off of that. But yeah, just another little fun thing to let you kids, you know, go to sleep to tonight. Ronald McDonald murdering you and all your friends at a playhouse. So yeah, that is
still better than Pro Jared.
Oh, ouch. Ooh, deep cut. Ooh. Yeah, he's ooh, yeah. Yeah, he is in some shit. But that being said, that is it for the show. Remember, you can always find us at our home, onegiantleapforgeeks.libsyn.com. We are also on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or anywhere else you get your podcast. Make sure to show us some love, so go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, rate, follow, review, and all that shit. And if you have any questions you want us to answer on the show, any comments, criticisms, or you just want to say hi, you can email us at officialoglfg@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at GiantLeap4Geeks. Our resident DJ Melly Mel is at Froggy Beaver, and Benwah is at Benwah Gaming. We are on Reddit, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram. Just search for One Giant Leap for Geeks. All right, have a good night. Bye.